Welcome to Jim Harold Live. I am Jim Harold and so glad to be with you today. And we have a really strong show, I think, for you today, and I hope that you will enjoy it very much. Jody Livon, psychic medium, the happy medium, and intuitive coach, will be joining us for a segment to talk about psychic gifts and related topics, and she's always a fantastic guest. Also, for the Campfire Story of the Week, we have something special. I'm not going to read a story, but I'm going to play a video from you. We took one of our favorite recent stories and made it into a video, and it kind of indicates the direction that we want to go on video with. We're going to continue the live streams, of course, but I want to start kind of resharing campfire stories in a different form. And this is really, we've done something like it before, but I don't think it's anywhere near as good as what you're going to see today. And it's the world premiere of the video. It's not on YouTube yet, so you will see that. And we also have a question of the day, and it relates to one of our news stories. One of our news stories today is about the Loch Ness Monster. So I want to know from you, do you believe in sea monsters? Do you believe sea monsters are real? I, for one, do. Maybe more so than land-based creatures. So I'll be interested in your opinion. But first, let's get to the stories. Up first, and of course, we've got to have our teletype. Time for the news. But I won't keep this on the whole time because that was not popular. But it is, by that sound, it is time for the news. This first story is kind of neat. I'm not a huge fan of BuzzFeed in general, although I'm not the target market, but they had this neat story about 25 celebs who have come in contact with ghosts and lived to tell the tale. For example, we have Demi Lovato shared that in their childhood home in Texas, it was haunted by a little girl named Emily. And back in 2013, Demi told BuzzFeed, "My house in Texas is so ridiculously haunted, not by a bad spirit, but a little girl. I think her name is Emily. I've had a medium come over and ghost hunters, and they both told me the same name, Emily. There's so many times I saw her when I was growing up. I saw her in my closet one time. When I was 3 years old, my mom caught me talking to something by myself. She asked, 'Who are you talking to?' And she said, 'My best friend, Emily.' And she goes on to talk about her belief in the afterlife and so forth. But there's 25 here. And again, I kind of love this article. And again, not a big BuzzFeed fan. Keanu Reeves and his nanny saw a ghost appear in his room while his sister was fast asleep. And everybody loves Keanu Reeves. I'm skipping over you. Now this one, I heard about this one. Kesha was once woken up by a ghost in a, quote, sensual way while she was in bed asleep next to her boyfriend. Let's see who else we've got here. I'm just going to hit some people I actually know. Matthew McConaughey, all right, said that his home was haunted by an entity named Madame Blue. Let's see here. Oh, Jenna Bush Hager said that while living in the White House, she and her sister Barbara witnessed some supernatural behavior. She said she explained in an interview with Kelly Clarkson, when she was a teenager, she discovered that the building was haunted. They were musical and came with no harm. They were kind, friendly, compassionate ghosts. Now, I got to say something. It's pretty much well known that the White House is haunted. My favorite ghost story to do with the White House is supposedly, now it's apocryphal, I don't know if it's true or not, but I love this story. Winston Churchill, of course, the great prime minister and wartime leader of the United Kingdom, was taking a bath in the White House when he was a guest with Roosevelt. And as one is, when one takes a bath, he was nude. And he looks up, and the ghost of Abraham Lincoln is standing there. And Churchill, in his unique way, says, "Mr. President, I'm very sorry, but it seems you have me at a disadvantage." I don't know if that's true or not, but that is a great story. Let's see here. Now, this is cool. Now, Dar and I have watched The Crown, although I think we need to catch up with the latest season. Helena Bonham Carter, from this BuzzFeed article, I want to give him full credit, BuzzFeed.com, communicated with Princess Margaret, who was Princess Elizabeth's sister, with the help of a medium before playing her on The Crown. And I love this part because if anybody saw that, and it's excellent, if you're interested in the royal family, and even I'm not as interested as some people, I really thought it was very well done. Olivia Colman and so forth. But Helena explained that she wanted the princess's blessing before portraying in her series. And apparently Margaret told her, get the smoking right, because Margaret was a big smoker. The ghost of Margaret added, get the smoking right. I smoked in a very particular way. The cigarette holder was as much a weapon for expression as it was for smoking. I'm just floating down through here, and then we'll move on to the next story. Interesting. Cher revealed that the ghost of her ex-husband, Sonny Bono, who died in 1998, played tricks on her. In a Reddit AMA, Ask Me Anything, Cher was asked if she was afraid of ghosts. She responded, I love ghosts. I actually think that Sonny makes a light go on. I have a beautiful chandelier that he makes the light go on when it is impossible. There's no power on. I love ghosts. I prefer ghosts to some people. It goes on to give stories about Laura Linney, Dale Earnhardt Jr., Emma Stone, and again, I'm only naming people I know. Ariana Grande. Really, we'll have a link in the show notes. It's a really good article. Well done. This week we had some really strong articles. Next up is number 2, and this is from Ryan Graves, former pilot and for the U.S. Navy. And he's one of the gentlemen who has really been at the forefront of kind of bringing this phenomena of military pilots seeing UFOs. And it happened to him going back to 2014. And what he's done here, and this is really interesting, and I like what he's done, is the fact that he's created an organization. And the organization, as soon as I can scroll down to it, is named, he's starting this organization, and it is called Americans for Safe Aerospace. It is a new advocacy organization for aerospace safety and national security. ASA will support pilots and other aerospace professionals who are reporting UAPs. And I think this is really crucial because what he was saying was, and kind of what I've said in some of my interviews with Micah and Ryan Sprague, is basically the idea that hopefully these balloon sightings are not getting conflated with the other sightings and the things that these military officers are seeing. So I'll bring that back up because the title is We Have a Real UFO Problem, and it's not balloons. That's Politico.com. And he, like a lot of people, feel that maybe that the UAP stuff is being sloughed off. Now, he goes on to applaud Senators Gillibrand and Rubio. They're asking for full funding of the AARO. And an interesting comment from Rubio that's referenced in this particular article is this quote: "We have things flying over our military bases and places where we're conducting military exercises, and we don't know what it is, and it isn't ours." Think about that. This story is not over. It's just beginning, hopefully. Hopefully it will be paid attention to in the way that it should be. And then the final story for today is about the Loch Ness Monster. The Loch Ness Monster. And the Loch Ness Monster was spotted off of the Somerset coast. Now, lest we confuse people about your geography, this is in the area of Clevedon, which is not in Scotland, but England. It's on the English coast. I looked it up. And this creature, and if you can take a look again, there's a picture of it there. It is claimed possibly to be the mythical creature in the channel right next to the town's Victorian pier. The sea monster, which was several feet long, and I should say this is from somerset.co.uk, was seen bobbing about in the water, with many rushing to take pictures. And one witness said it moved all the way along the sea in front of us whilst we were sat there. My daughter Grace said it looked like a sea monster. Just the shape of it reminded me of Nessie. So, again, my viewpoint and the question of the day is, what do you think about sea monsters? my viewpoint has always been that if you're interested in cryptids, that I think sea monsters have and by sea I also mean in lakes, waterborne monsters, quote monsters, have the greatest chance of being real of anything. They really do. I believe that to be the case. So it's one of those things where I think there might be something to it. Because all the time, prehistoric creatures or creatures that were thought to be extinct are still alive in the depths of the ocean. So there you have it. There you have it. And we're going to get Jody Lavon on here in just a moment. Give her a few minutes to get prepared and get us going. But some really good stories today. I love these stories. The celebrities had ghost encounters. That again is BuzzFeed. We have a real UFO problem that is by Politico.com, and this one from Somerset.co.uk. And it really is a situation where we're always searching for stories, and sometimes they're very hard to find really quality ones. But this week we were excited to bring you 3 of them. It looks like Jody might be ready, so let's see if we can bring her in. Jody Lavon, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear. So good to see you. And folks, if you're not familiar, and you should be familiar because she's been a guest many times on our shows, Jody Lavon is, that's not the right graphic, there it is. She is the intuitive coach and the happy medium. You're looking at her website over at theintuitivecoach.com. Also, she is an author. And here are a couple of her books, The Happy Medium, Awakening to Your Natural Intuition, and The Happy Medium, Speaking the Language of Intuition. And she's a very popular guest on radio, TV, podcasts. I think you've got your own podcast going now. You do so many things, Jody. I can't keep up. So good to have you on the show today. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I love being on your shows.
Well, thank you. Thank you. So in regards to what's going on with you today, I think many of our listeners have probably followed you and heard you on the podcast before. What is like top of mind and going on with Jody Lavon these days?
Well, I'm very excited because I'm going to be launching a new website with a bunch of new initiatives, things that people can do virtually, more virtual events, etc., and more in-person events with a lot of readings, and I'm offering classes. So I'm very excited. This has been in the making since before COVID, and then there are a few things that got in the way, and now I'm launching it. So I'm very excited. I want people to know how naturally intuitive they are, and that they just need to awaken it. It's not like they have to go buy their intuition. Just awaken it.
So are you saying that, I always joke, and I made this joke with you before, that I am as psychic as a board? But would you say even I, or pretty much everybody watching today, everybody has some level of psychic ability? Is that correct?
Absolutely everybody. And the people that you feel are really sensitive tend to have even more of that because your intuition really is riding with your emotions, your feelings. So I always say your intuition, your feelings are the wings of your intuition, and everybody has feelings. So everybody is intuitive. Some people are more aware of it. Some people are born with more of a capability than others. But everybody has it, and it's this free and natural resource. Why not learn to use it? I don't always just rely on my intuition. I balance it with what my heart and my head say. And I've made amazing decisions because of it. I've saved my own life. I've helped other people. I've bought cars using it. You pick flowers. You can do anything and everything with your intuition. It's fun.
How does one go about awakening your natural intuition? How does that happen? What are some of the, kind of 101 ways of doing that?
Pay attention to how you feel, because it's true that everything rides on the way that you feel. And remember to be neutral as much as possible, because your feelings just naturally occur. Your emotions, on the other hand, those are the stories that you tell yourself about what your feelings mean. If you pay attention to how you feel and let it sort of float by, you start to just get in the habit of tuning into how you feel, then your intuition will start to come more alive for you. And the other thing is when you get a feeling about something or someone, you don't have to act on it if you're not comfortable. Just pay attention to it and remember it and find out how that story ended. And if indeed your intuition was right on, that helps you build your confidence in using it. So you pay attention to those leads, and the more you acknowledge them, the bigger that they get. And they are going to be a reference to you. It's like you have a TV in your head and you start to see flashes of things, or you start to feel things out of the blue, like you remember your favorite dog when you were like 13 years old, and you're getting that feeling, and you turn around and there's a dog behind you that looks just like that dog. That's your intuition saying you really are intuitive.
So, yeah, how do you know something's legitimate? Like, they talk about like a medical test or something. You get a false positive. I'm assuming that, especially for people who are really new to this, that they may think it's intuition, but it's just maybe random thoughts coming through their head. So and I don't know if that's true, but if it is true, how do you separate that out, the wheat from the chaff, knowing, okay, this is a nugget of wisdom that I'd be wise to act upon? How do we know the difference?
Excellent question. So what you need to do is you need to make sure that you are dealing with how you feel. If something's upsetting you, you work it through. So you're not always upset, so your intuition is much more clear and you feel more balanced. So you pay attention to things that bother you and you work them through. If something comes up where you're like, is this my fear or is this my intuition? Intuition will always have a calmness about it, no matter what it is. You will feel a calmness inside of you. If you think something's going to happen and you feel really upset about it, your intuition isn't being involved in that, because your intuition will help you feel calm. And to feel that, you have to feel balanced. The best way is to do what you can to feel balanced. Take care of your body. Eat what you need to eat that's natural. Get enough exercise. Get enough hugs. Get enough sleep. Good, clear, clean water. All those things help you clear the slate, so when you do get an intuitive lead, it's much more obvious. And of course, my favorite way of being more intuitive, be joyful. Find a way to, in your heart, to find something joyful about what's happening, or at least less icky.
And that makes sense. Speaking of feeling different ways, how does being mindful play into this and impact your life? Sometimes I think, particularly when we're stressed, we have a lot going on in our lives, or maybe we're in a job that we're kind of bored with. You kind of go on autopilot and you stop being mindful. What is the importance of being mindful? I know that's a theme that you've talked about.
So it's so funny because you're saying that, and I'm remembering that a lot of us float above our body. If you ever have the feeling of not being present, kind of floating above you, being spacey, you're not being mindful. And the best thing that you can do to be mindful is say your name to yourself and find something in front of you that you are interested in. That's how you bring yourself to that mindfulness. I like this pen. I just ate a great lunch. Look, it's 3 o'clock and it's sunny. I'm going to be off of work in a few days or in a few hours. That's being mindful. That brings you back into your body. You need to be in your body really to sense things so you can use your intuition. Being mindful is being present. You are here for a reason. The universe puts you here for a reason, and you're in a body for a reason. Lots of time on the other side where we can float around without a body, but you're in a body to enjoy the sensations of your body. That is another way to be mindful. And when you are centered, because when you're mindful, you're centered, your intuition is even louder. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're actually going to solicit some comments and some questions from the audience as we're going along here. We have fun, had a good one. It kind of drilled down on what we were talking about a little while before. How do you kind of perk up your intuition? And we have fun asks, is there any way to train or strengthen our intuition? We kind of talked about that. But in particular, any style of meditation you recommend? So is there any particular style of meditation you recommend, or any other specific practices?
So the style of meditation that I recommend is the one that speaks to you, the one that helps you feel the best, the one that makes you feel the most present. For me, I can have the attention span of a gnat. So if I just if I just listen to myself breathe, literally listen to myself breathe, that for me is my meditation. Or a bike ride or a walk helps me too. Just doing something that you feel present in and listen to yourself breathe. And that is the most powerful way to do it. I know there's some beautiful ways, beautiful methods of meditation. I am not schooled in them. I'm not educated in all of them. I, as I said, have the attention span of a gnat. So the best one for me is to listen to myself breathe. Literally, that's the best one for me. And that will awaken your intuition as well, because you're more present and the noise is cut down. So when those thoughts start to come into your head, that's all right. Just let them fly by. That's okay. And start telling yourself a really positive story during your meditation and before and after. I'm just going to listen to myself breathe, or I'm just going to meditate. I'm doing things really well. Start that constant flow of positive talking, not sickeningly sweet, real positive, things that are accurate. I'm sitting here doing this right now and it really feels good. I exercised yesterday. It's okay if I don't do it today. I just had those thoughts about not feeling good about myself, letting that go, getting back to my breathing. Because when you feel more present, the colors are brighter. You can feel, I always feel shorter when I'm not floating above my body. I actually literally feel like I'm shorter because I'm down in my body. Food tastes better, kisses are better. Everything is better when you're more present.
Ramona asks, and I'll remind everybody just so I catch them, put a Q in front of your question. Ramona wants to know, can we lose our intuition if we don't use or if we ignore it?
You can never lose your intuition. It is yours. It is your birthright. It is a gift from the universe, and what you do with it is your gift back. You can, it's like riding a bike. Once you start to pay attention to those little leads inside of your tummy, or however they come to you, your heart, your head, that gut feeling, when you start to pay attention to them and acknowledge them, you don't even have to act on them, just acknowledge them, they awaken. So they're always there. It's always there. It's just a matter of awakening them again. So you'll never lose them.
Now, we had gone back and forth on some of our topics and so forth, and you mentioned that when you're blogging or doing TV appearances, that these days you're talking about the topic of spiritual bypassing a lot. Maybe for people who don't know what that is, can you explain what spiritual bypassing is and why it's so important to be aware of it and discuss it?
So spiritual bypassing is a way of ignoring how you feel. Something emotional that you need to work through. Because if it's happening in your life, it's meant for you to work through. If you ignore it, or if you say things like, it's okay that I just slammed my, finger in a door, I'm just going to ignore it. That's spiritual bypassing, thinking that you're too above it. You're too spiritually advanced somehow to even go through your emotions. That's spiritual bypassing. So that would be, and people do that to us as well. They offer things to us like, oh, you're going through a divorce? That's all right. That wasn't meant to be. That's spiritual bypassing. It was meant to be. You were with that person for a reason. You just work the emotions through about it and you get to the other side of it. It's also telling people to, what is that? I hate the saying, so it's hard for me to even remember it. One of them is man up. I think that's one of the worst things I've ever heard in my life. Or I don't even know if I can use this word on this. S-U-C-K it up. Just.
You could say that.
Okay, suck it up. That's the worst thing. No, feel it and let it go. Work it through and let it go. Spiritual bypassing says you're not supposed to do any of that. You're supposed to just have this wagon behind you with all this emotional junk that's heavy that you're responding to constantly, and everybody else can see it because you're constantly in a negative mood about it, but you're acting like it's not there. When you start to get rid of that stuff that you're taking around in that wagon, you're much more clear. Spiritual bypassing says you should ignore your feelings and ignore your emotions. Really healthy thinking and healthy spirituality says, I'm going to have my emotions and my feelings, but not be had by them. And then I'm going to keep moving forward. So as we've discussed, I'm a breast cancer survivor, and I could write a book about the funny things people have said to me. You might not think they're funny, but they caused me to cry, laugh so hard, because they were trying to help, but they said really hilarious things to me, like things that you wouldn't really think about saying to somebody who's going through something like that, but they did it because they're naturally spiritual, bypassing themselves. So people do it to us, we do it to ourselves. If we have our feelings, but we don't allow ourselves to be had by them, we won't do it.
I just wanted to make a little aside. This occasionally happens when you have a live chat. We had a person in the comments on Facebook saying that they were psychic and they're soliciting readings from our viewers. So please ignore that person. Anyway, that is all. I'm not saying you're not psychic, but this is not the time or place to be doing that. So please go somewhere else. Velma wanted to know, intuition is a hit and miss for me. How can we make it be more accurate?
I love these questions. So it's all right that it's hit and miss. It's hit and miss for a lot of us. And sometimes you can get a really strong feeling about something and you go for it and it doesn't work out the way you think it's supposed to, but maybe it still led you to where you're supposed to be, where you want to be, what's best for your spirit. So again, pay attention to, you're looking for a restaurant to eat. You're in a new city, you're looking for a restaurant, and you are really drawn to a specific restaurant. So follow your heart, trust your gut, and use your head. Those are the things to really think about. Go to the restaurant, look at the menu online, see if there's something that you can eat. So then your head says yes, your heart is still drawn to it, your gut says yes, go for it. That's how you do it. But you always measure it. You follow your heart, you trust your gut, and you use your head. And it will get stronger and stronger. I've done this all of my life, and that's worked for me brilliantly, and it's worked for other people as well. It may sound over simple, like really simplified. I guess that's kind of me.
Me too. So I'm going to throw something out there that anytime you say you're going to have a psychic as a guest, whether it's you or anybody else, you'll get a snarky comment, something like this. Have them help me with my Final Four brackets. You know, have them tell me what lottery numbers to play. So I'm going to turn it around and make it a serious question. When people ask, like, what horse to bet on and that kind of stuff, what is your response? Because it's not a serious thing. I think it's more to just kind of cast aspersions on psychics. But how do you respond to that? Because there's always one in the crowd who says that when you're going to talk to a psychic.
Or they say, what am I thinking? And I say,
yeah.
I don't care what you're thinking. It's not of interest to me. You're not that interesting. And sometimes I can be snarky back, as you could see my face when you were reading that question. So sometimes people do that to discount psychics and mediums.
Right.
And sometimes they're really curious, like, really, can you do this? I just say, I don't read the future. I read the signs that indicate what might occur. And that doesn't interest me to help you win the lottery, or those things don't interest me. And that's not what my abilities are for. My abilities are to help other people connect with their intuition, connect with the fact that life goes on after we die, and to have more joy. That's where I'm focused. So that's not what it's for. Intuition isn't for that. Intuition is to help your soul grow. So I've gotten them my entire life, and I get the same ones over and over again, and I roll my eyes, which is not very respectful. And my grandma Faye used to say that my eyes would stick that way if I did that. I just think people do that in part because they're curious, and also they like to put other people down, because what if it's true, which it is, that other people are in touch with their intuition? That means they have something on you. If you don't want your intuition, if you think it's a bunch of baloney, then somebody else that uses their intuition in their work, in their home life, wherever they're using it, that means they have something you don't, and that can be really intimidating to people. Little do they know they are also intuitive. And if they would get in touch with how they feel and their connection with all that is, it would be more alive to them. Unfortunately, Jim, it sometimes takes people losing someone or a tragedy to really open people up to the fact that they have this insight that can help guide them. And they'll be, when it's really strong, there's no question. You can just feel it. You just know this is the way to go. It's like when you meet somebody that you really connect with, you just know, same feeling.
Fair enough. Good answer. It's just one of those things that it almost seems like every time I'm going to have a psychic guest, there's a variation of that comment. So I thought, let's let an expert answer it. Indeed.
I'm glad you
Let's
did.
see. Let's see here. We've got some more. Here's a good one. Can intuition, I think Renee meant, present itself in dreams, in your opinion?
Oh, absolutely. There's precognitive dreams and postcognitive. So precognitive is dreams that indicate something that might happen in the future, might happen for you. And they've got this really cool, I think kind of eerie, which is a good thing, other real feeling. Colors are really bright, things are quiet, you wake up and you remember it. You absolutely can get a glimpse of what might happen, and it's your guide's way of giving you a heads up for future events, so you can have an emotional heads up. But you have to know there's so much to interpreting a dream, because dreams are typically not what they seem. That sometimes they are, but sometimes you'll dream, an 80-year-old could dream that she's going to have a baby. Well, that means that there's something new coming, a new way of life, a new way of thinking. She's giving birth to a new way of thinking. It's not always exactly what it seems. But if you act on it, if you have a dream about a house and you keep dreaming that you're walking through a certain house, that means there's something changing for you in the way that you feel at home. Lots of different interpretations, but dreams are a wonderful way for our unconscious mind psychologically to reach us, and also our intuition to reach us. But again, you got to follow your heart, trust your gut, and use your head. Don't go crazy with the dream. Interpret it. Ask somebody else to interpret it. Look up online Carl Jung. He's got, I don't know if it's Jung or Jung. I think it's Jung.
Jung is the way
Yeah.
I've always heard it.
Me too, but I've only read it a million times. But he's brilliant in the way he does dream interpretation. Brilliant.
Yeah, and I really like the ideas about tapping into the collective unconscious. One thing I talk about on the shows all the time is the idea that, in particularly back in the day before the internet and things, you would have a scientist working on something. Like, I think television was an example of this when it was first being developed. And you had one scientist on one end of the world working on it, the other end of the world, another scientist working on it. But they did not know of each other's work, and they were coming up with the same kinds of innovation and the same kinds of discovery at essentially the same time. It's like they're both tapping into something. Or when a musical artist, you hear this all the time, I think, when you've got like a pop artist who's had like a really big hit, like the hit of a lifetime. And a lot of times you'll say, I don't know where that came from. I wrote it in 5 minutes on the back of an envelope. You know, and you hear that all the time. They're tapping into something. Now,
I love that.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's very cool stuff. Now, Hillary has something very cool. If I could speak, Jody, if I could speak, this would help my career immensely. But alas, I can't. Hillary wants to know, are there lifestyle choices that heighten intuition? For example, diet changes. Thanks, Hillary.
Yes, because what you eat absolutely impacts the way that your body responds to things and how you feel. Diet choices, I really believe in eating organic. What you eat, how you sleep, the way that you live your life very much heightens your intuition, because if you're honoring how you feel, I feel like doing this, it's a healthy choice, and you do it, your intuition grows and grows and grows, because it can lead you. It's like a map. Very much matters how you do things. If you keep doing things, for instance, if you want to say no and you're not saying no, you dwindle inside, and your intuition sort of gets a little quieter. But when you honor saying yes, it's a good boundary, and your intuition grows more. Lifestyle choices matter so much. What's so funny is there's some great books out there. I love reading books about intuition and about spirituality and about UFOs and all of that. You have the answers, so many of them inside of you as well. And when you read a book or you watch an amazing show like Jim Harold offers, and you start to get that tingly little feeling in your solar plexus, like around right above your belly button, that's your intuition saying, do more of this. Add that to your lifestyle and your intuition will grow. Keep paying attention to how you grow your life, and your intuition will grow. Because when something resonates for you, you know that there's truth in that. Somebody else might have written it or is talking about it, but you know it's truth. So you integrate that into your life, and your life is more colorful, more full of grace.
I love this handle. Meat Suit Mania wants to know, do you do anything to protect yourself and your space while meditating?
Awesome questions. Yes, I do. So before I meditate, and I do mini meditations all day long, I press my feet into the ground. I close my eyes if it's safe to do that. Like, don't do it while you're driving. Do it when you're like in a corner alone. Press your feet into the ground, close your eyes, listen to yourself breathe. Just listen in and out just for as long as you can. 30 seconds is fine. Say your full name to yourself, and then imagine as you press your feet into the ground once again, an iridescent white light coming up from the core of the earth, and it's made of pure love and universal protection, and it comes up through your body, filling every single cell with light, comes out the top of your head as you exhale, and surrounds you in an egg-shaped glow. So you inhale and it comes up through your body, you exhale and it goes around you in an egg-shaped glow, protecting your energy completely and thoroughly. Only love can get through it. Really important to do that before you go into a meeting, before you go into a crowd. If you're upset about something, it's an amazingly effective thing to do, and it can take literally 1 minute.
Very cool indeed. Very cool indeed. Here's a good one from We Have Fun. Has anything frightening or disturbing happened through your psychic visions?
Yes, especially before I learned my boundaries, because I saw everybody's potential future. I felt everybody's pain. I saw my own death. Even in good boundaries, you can have that. So yes, and that's when you have to run it through. This might be a flash of what's happening right now, but it doesn't mean it's the truth. It just means it's a flash of what's happening right now. I need to tighten my boundaries, because that stuff doesn't interest me. Seeing awful things, no matter what, doesn't interest me. I don't even want that in my energy field. You see, how you radiate, what your vibe that you radiate draws in more of the same vibe. That's why I say get yourself into a happy place when you can, a peaceful, legitimately happy place, because you're going to draw more of those things to you. You're going to magnetize the good. And as I always say, you'll be sticky for the good instead of sticky for the icky.
Judith mentioned that she'd seen her own funeral, and you mentioned seeing your own death. How do you, that's going to be pretty disturbing.
Yes, especially when you're dealing with a cancer diagnosis. But you see, I was afraid. So I was pulling information unconsciously to me that was a potential, because it definitely turned out to be it could have happened, but it was something that was a potential. And so you remember when you see visions that it's potentials. Sometimes it's based on your own fear, and sometimes it's given to you so you can change your actions so it doesn't happen at all. And my experience is, most of the time when you see something like that, it is based on fear. So that means the universe is saying to you, get things done that you want to get done. Not that you're going to die tomorrow, but you need to get back on task. There are different reasons for seeing that. A lot of people tell me things like that, and then they're terrified. Please don't be terrified. It could be an interpretation. Your guides and your angels are going to protect you from getting information that terrifies you that's true. You're not going to see most of those things right away. You're not going to see them. They're going to be something that you interpret, that you let go, and then maybe you change something about the way that you're living your life so you feel more empowered. Please know that that might literally not be your funeral. It could be, of course, there's that chance, and it also could be that it's 30 years from now, or 60.
Good point. Good point. Jen wanted to ask, have you experienced that your intuition has heightened after the lockdowns ended and we were able to move around more?
Yeah, because I was happier. When you're happier, you have more intuition. And when you are closed up in a space and you're not getting your body exercised, your boundaries are really loose, you're not going to have the best of intuition. So yes, I think that my intuition heightened after that. My intuition heightens after every experience that I digest and then let go of the icky stuff. My intuition heightens. When you meet people that have gone through a lot of really yucky stuff, that might be in like a Minnesota word. No, icky's a Minnesota word. When you meet people that go through yucky stuff, they're oftentimes much more insightful because you see they let go of the outcome has to be a certain way, and they've lived in that moment, and they've learned to trust their instincts. So, I mean, I think a lot of people that have been through a lot of things are even more insightful if they allow themselves to do that. Kind of a roundabout answer.
And one more from the audience, creative, and we've had such good questions today. It makes my job easy. I just hit the button. Sometimes creativity in the paranormal asks, sometimes I forget to protect myself psychically in the morning and get affected by low energy. Is there a quick, simple way to reconnect to my own power?
Great question. Yes, the fact that you recognize it instantly protects you. So good for you for even recognizing it. And then what you do is you do that exercise we just did about pressing your feet into the ground, listening to yourself breathe, saying your full name to yourself, and putting that white light around yourself. I don't remember if I said say your full name to yourself. That really helps. That will readjust you. It will neutralize you. It'll put you back into gear.
This has been a great conversation. I mean, you always have such great information to impart and such great insight. And really, shout out to our audience for their great questions. So the question now is, first of all, what is new for Jody Lavon? What are you working on now? What are you really saying, hey, check this out, check that out? What should we be most aware of in the world of Jody Lavon these days? And where can we find it, of course?
Well, of course, if you go to theintuitivecoach.com, you're going to see my website that's been up for a while. I have lots of information on there. There's free tools and techniques you can get. Please follow my blog. I'm talking about a lot of fun things in social media. I'm not sure when my new website's going to launch because, you know, these creative things can take a little bit of time.
Sure.
But I am offering more virtual things, so please keep in touch on my website, read my books, and I am going to, and I haven't said this out loud, I've had another book brewing since after my first book came out. Instead of having that book launch, I launched a different one, and now I'm going to do another book. So within the next probably 3 to 6 months, I'm going to have another book out there as well. So just keep a look on my website. And I'm on this great show called Twin Cities Live.
Yes.
I'm usually on every single week or every single month, and I love being on it. And if you go to Twin Cities Live or KSTP, you can see some of the things that I've done. And if you go to YouTube, you can see tons of things that I've done on Twin Cities Live. And you guys know what reels are. Obviously, everybody's probably younger than me, and everybody knows what they are. I'm doing reels and shorts. So there's a lot of new things that I'm letting out into the universe.
And your YouTube channel, what is that under? Is it under the Intuitive Coach or the Happy Medium or Jody Lavon?
You can look under Jody Lavon. I should know that, shouldn't I? Let's just blame this on chemo. I think it's Jody Happy Medium 1 or something like that. But if you just Google Jody Lavon YouTube, it'll come right up. I have a lot of great fun videos, and some of them are goofy, and you're going to see more goofy from me.
Yeah, I gotta say, you're one of my all-time favorite guests, one of my favorite people, and really appreciate it. And thank you so much for taking time today to be on the show. I really, really appreciate it. And I'll send you an email after the show. But thank you again. I really appreciate it. Great information.
You are a blessing.
Thank you.
You're a blessing in a lot of people's lives, for sure my life. I love what you do. You bring such genuine integrity to the paranormal world. Thank you very, very much.
Well, thank you, Jody. Always a pleasure to get to speak with you. Really, always great to speak with Jody. She's just fantastic. One of my favorite people in the psychic world, the supernatural world, and I really believe she has a great gift and a great way of imparting it. This next segment I am very excited about. I've had a lot of fits and starts with video over the last 3 years. Ironically, I went to school for video and not audio. And honestly, I've wanted to do several things in video. I'm getting happier with the live stream. Today's live stream went, except for hitting one wrong button, went great. I'm very excited about that. And I feel our audience isn't huge, but I think that the live streaming audience is enjoying it. And I'm going to keep doing this. I don't know if we're going to do it every single week, but we're definitely do it a couple times a month at least. Next week, I actually will not be here. Because I have a heating and cooling system being installed in my house. So I will take the day off and lick my wounds from my wallet. And we'll be back on St. Patrick's Day and thinking about some special things for that. But the point was, what I wanted to get across, don't leave yet, is that essentially I've been disappointed in my video efforts. Okay. So this video you're about to see, the Campfire Story of the Week, which will later be put on YouTube either today or Monday as a standalone video, really kind of exemplifies where I want to take video for the shows. And it is a standalone campfire story, a recent campfire story that I thought was really great. We're doing some new things with recording that allowed us to do this. And I'm going to shut up now and let you watch it. I think you'll like it. Let me know in the comments what you think. Here you go.
So there really it relates to a few conversations that I had when they were very little. So in each case, the conversations were had with them when they were about 3.5. The first of which is with my eldest daughter. So like I say, she was about 3.5, and it was just the two of us sitting around a table playing with Play-Doh one afternoon. Her little brother was just a baby, so he was upstairs taking a nap, and Dad was out the house, and we were just sitting together. And she started looking a little bit sad, and then she looked up at me and she said, "Mummy, sometimes I really miss my father." And I kind of looked a bit sort of sideways at her. We don't use the word father, you know, she's 3.5, her dad is daddy, and that was kind of it, really. Right. So I said, "Mummy," I said, "Do you mean daddy?" So he's at work, but he'll be home in a couple of hours, so you can see him, so don't worry. She said, no, not daddy, my father. And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" I said, "Because daddy's your father, you know, father is a word for daddy." And she said, no, not daddy, my father from before. My father with the white beard. And I was like, well, that's certainly not your dad, who's like in his 30s with jet black hair at the time. So I kind of said, "Well, you know, who do you mean?" And she said, "Yeah, no, my father from before with the white beard." And wow. I was a bit baffled. Yeah, a bit weird. And again, the use of the language was quite odd for a 3.5-year-old to kind of come out with. And so I started asking her questions about it. So I said, "Well, so tell me a bit more about who's your father? Who's this father that you keep talking about?" And she said that she remembers him, he was very kind, and they lived together in a house made of wood. And she kind of described something that could be like a cabin or perhaps like a chalet or something like that. And she used to live in this house with her father, who had what she called a waist jacket with a watch on a chain that he kept in his pocket, which obviously I'm guessing means like a pocket watch in a waistcoat, you know. And she said that she could remember she lived in a house. The house was by some woods and near a river, and she used to play by the woods. And she could remember things like she remembers making bread in the house. Wow. And nobody else lived there. And then I was trying to ask her questions without leading her, because she was very little, and I kind of just wanted to know where this was going really and where it might have come from. Because apart from anything else, I thought I might have missed something she'd been watching, like a movie on TV or something, and I hadn't seen. And it was quite a specific set of memories that she came out with. And actually, the emotions that she was expressing seemed really genuine. She was really sad. She missed him, you know? But after a while, you know, no more information was sort of forthcoming, and we kind of just left it at that. I told her dad when he came home from work, and he was just as baffled as I was, and we couldn't really understand where it all come from, but we kind of let it be. And that was kind of that, except for about 3 weeks later, again, we were at home together, probably similar time, little brother having a nap, and she was climbing over the furniture. So she was trying to climb up the back of a chair to get something I'd put on a shelf high up out of her reach. And I told her to get down. So get down, that's dangerous, get off the chair. And went off to do some other chore or other. And I came back and she was doing it again. So I sort of told her off. I said, "Look, that's really naughty. If I tell you not to do something, I'm telling you to keep you safe, because it's dangerous. Don't do it." And she looked at me solemnly and she went, "Yeah, that's like what happened to Frida, because her parents told her not to play in the river, and she did, and she hit her head and she died. And then she sort of went on to back
Whoa.
to And at this point, my jaw was literally on the floor. And apart from anything else, you think that's such an unusual name. I don't think I've ever met anyone called Frida.
Yeah,
Certainly
for the modern day, yeah, very unusual.
Yeah, very weird. And it kind of piqued my interest enough for me to remember, obviously, the conversation we'd had some weeks previously. And the next time I took her to nursery, so like preschool, I spoke to her, the member of staff that looked after her, and I said, look, have you been reading any books or seeing anything recently with a character called Frida in it? And she was like, no. I said, what about stories that are in like a log cabin or in a chalet or by the woods? Or is there anything with a man with a white beard and a waistcoat in it? And she kind of started looking at me a bit sideways, like, no. So that was literally the only other thing I could think of where she might have gathered this story together. But it was such a abstract collection of things for her to put together and make into a story and then tell from a first person perspective. I can't think of any rational reason why it would be anything other than memories of something that had obviously happened to her before.
Wow. Oh my goodness. What a
super
great
weird
story. I mean, and she was 4 at the time, is that right?
She's about 3.5. And that's what sort of links really with, so I have 3 children, and actually my youngest has never said anything even vaguely to do with anything other than the here and now. And but the 2 eldest, and my son at the same age, at 3.5, also said something that kind of blew my mind, but in a slightly different way. And I might say that, mention the fact that obviously when my eldest daughter was having these conversations with me, he was just a baby, so there was nothing to link, or inspire him, I would say, to talk about what I'm about to explain to you. But again, at about 3.5, my eldest was at school at that point. My littlest was a tiny baby. Dad was out at work, and we were sitting around the breakfast table, and he looked at me and he said, Mummy, sometimes I really miss my old family. And I sort of looked at him and I said, well, what do you mean? I said, you've got me, you've got Daddy, and we're right here. You've got your big sister. I know Sophia's at school, but she'll be home in a few hours. And, sort of cajoling a bit. And he was like, no, not you guys. I miss my old family from, and I don't think he said from before. He said my old family that I was with. And I was like, well, what do you mean? And again, I didn't want to kind of alarm him, and I didn't want him to think that I was kind of, a sconce. I wanted him to kind of naturally tell me whatever he was going to naturally tell me. And he said that he had a mum and a dad and 2 brothers and a sister, and they all lived together. And he said we all lived in the house together, and there was a war and there was explosions. I can't remember exactly how he said it. There was lots of noise and an explosion. And one day they were in the house and the wall came down, and I screamed and screamed and screamed for hours, but no one came. And then I came to you.
Okay. I don't know what to say to that. That is amazing.
It's just bananas.
That is
so
amazing.
Weird. Yeah, really, really.
I am just
blew my
impressed.
mind.
Those are 2 great stories. Now, how old are the children now?
So my son has literally just had his 10th birthday, and my eldest daughter is just about to turn 12. So quite a while ago, it's 9 years ago now, really.
Have you talked to them about this? Do they have any recollection?
I have. So I didn't talk to them about it in the sort of year or so after they first said it. Apart from anything else, I thought if anything were to come naturally, then it would lend a bit more credibility to it, but nothing ever did. But certainly by the time my eldest was about 8 or 9, I remember saying to her, do you ever remember talking to me about your father in the house by the woods? And she sort of looked at me blankly like, what are you talking about, Mum? No. So she knows the story in relation to what I have told her that she said to me when she was little, but she's got no recollection at all. Complete blank. Just gone.
Amazing.
And with my son, he doesn't really recall either. Although he said some other very, very weird things as well, but I think that's a whole other campfire call.
Has this made you, I don't know what your thoughts about reincarnation were before these experiences. Has it informed that or changed that in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I don't think I'd necessarily been, I was fairly agnostic, I guess. I didn't really have any particular set of beliefs, but certainly I, as a fairly rational person, you look at all these different things and you think, well, actually, how can this all tie together in any other way? How can these children have had these really emotional responses to telling me these stories if they were all completely fabricated in their own minds at that time. It seems to me that there is no other explanation other than the fact that they have a memory from something that predates our time together. So it absolutely has kind of sort of cemented in my mind the fact that I think that, this is just, one particular meat suit that we put on of many, probably.
I have to tell you, what an amazing story. Thank you for sharing it today on the Campfire.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Well, there you have it. And we want to do more things in that direction. And there's no changes to the Campfire audio podcast. It is the straight stories as we've always done them, with no music, no editing other than for basically sound. That's going to stay exactly the way it is. We would like from time to time, depending on how many people agree to it, and depending on the quality of the stories and ones that we think would translate, we want to do more of that. So we hope that you like it. Hillary said that was great, and we got some other nice comments, so we appreciate that very much. So look for more of that, and if you want to share that particular video with anyone, that should be up on YouTube probably within the next 24 hours, and Jen liked it too. Thanks, Jen. We appreciate it. So I had asked at the beginning of the show, what are your thoughts on sea monsters, the Loch Ness Monster? You can put in the comments what you think. And also whatever you thought about the video, I would appreciate that. And we thank you so much. And Meat Suit Mania, although Meat Suit was mentioned in the text. When I saw Meat Suit Mania there, I thought that was funny. Meat Suit Mania says, that was a nice change of pace. Very well done, Jim. Love the additional work on the video. Renee said, love it. We've got some volunteers to help us with stock video in the chat room. Appreciate that sentiment. Kate said, very cool. We appreciate it. So let me know what you think about those sea monsters. I'd like to highlight a couple comments in that regard, and then we'll wrap this thing up for today. But I thought we had a good time and really did enjoy it. I really enjoy doing these live streams. It just gives me a connection. I enjoy video. I think I enjoy audio more, but I miss doing video. So I love having this connection with you. As I said before, probably, we won't be on this every single week, but I think at least twice monthly, we're going to continue to do these. This was kind of a ramping up period, and a chance to get a sense if this was going to be something that would be something we would continue. And the verdict is in. We're definitely going to continue it. Again, sometimes it's tough, especially with doing other videos and things, to do it every single week. But always stay in touch with my email newsletter. And that's something I should mention. You can get a free mini ebook of 10 of my favorite campfire stories from my books. And all you got to do is go to jimharold.com and click on the orange button and subscribe to my weekly email newsletter. There's no cost to it. And then you'll get the link to the file of the PDF ebook for you to read. So jimharold.com, click on that orange button, subscribe to my email newsletter. And we'll always be putting out information about any YouTube videos, live streams, all of that good stuff. Let's see here. Hillary says, the deep sea creeps me out. There's so many species that haven't been discovered yet. I think that there is for sure some weird sea monsters out there. I agree. We Have Fun says, sea monsters probably exist, but I do not think Loch Ness. It was a hoax. Or excuse me, I do think Loch Ness was a hoax. Sorry about that. Great work on the video. Let us be your stock footage actors for the next one. Karen said, very nicely done on the video. Nancy says, bring on the sea monsters. And Caitlin has the last word. Always so happy to catch a live. Thank you for doing these. Thank you, Caitlin. Thank all of you for listening. And we had a great time this week and really, really appreciate it. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time. Stay tuned for all the podcasts at jimharold.com and on your favorite podcatcher. And until next time, stay safe and stay spooky. Bye-bye, everybody.